All right. Oh, apparently this is still live. Everything crashed. Anyway, so apparently a lot of this stuff, like literally everything just crashed. It's weird. The cell phone, everything. Um, so as far low dopamine is a big problem for Parkinson's disease. It's responsible for issues with depression, psychosis. This is one of those big deals that when Dr. Amen came out and said that cannabis was eating all your gray matter and it was killing you. So it's horrible and terrible. That was where he stopped, which I thought was absurd. It was obviously a hit on cannabis. Um, so real quick on that one. The reason why this is important for the cannabis deal is because cannabis actually increases dopamine release, which increases cerebral blood flow levels in the beginning. And so it is cannabis is highly therapeutic for Parkinson's and for depression and all those things in the short run because it has your body release extra dopamine. The problem is your body's not making the dopamine properly, and so you deplete it faster, and so we end up with bigger issues. But it's not the cannabis's problem; it's the body not being able to produce these things. So when we look at Parkinson's and depression, all these low dopamine functions that result in lower cerebral blood flow, that's the problem. And so we have to fix the production of dopamine. So one of the things that we have everybody do is we have them look at MAO, so monoamine oxidase genetics, to see if they're breaking down those neurotransmitters faster. Because if they are, there's some things we can do to slow that down. But the other thing is we just got to produce more. So again, when we look at these issues that the medical guys think are, there's no drugs, we can't fix it. It's just, we should just cry and moan about it. That's because they don't understand the body was actually created and designed. They're not taught that. The body has a very specific way of doing all these things. So we can actually increase the amount of dopamine that is produced pretty easily. And so the way that we do that is we have to fix the gut. So it kind of comes back together, fix the adrenals a little bit. Vaccines create a bigger issue in this. Parasites create a huge issue in this. Diet is obviously a big deal. Leaky gut and stuff like that. So you got to fix all those things. But the path to creating dopamine is, you need tyrosine and phenylalanine, and then those two things come together between the gut and the adrenals. They produce what's called L-DOPA, and then L-DOPA is converted to dopamine, and it's stored in the vesicles of the brain and then released into the system. So what you need for that are amino acids, the things you find in meat. So that's going to be one of those big things. So eating your steak is going to get you the iron. It's going to get you the tyrosine, the phenylalanine. It's going to get you all the cofactors that you need to get this thing done. The problem is that you also need P5P, which is and you need methylfolate. So those two things also have genetic variances to them. The methylfolate is the MTFHR, and the breakdown of it is the MOA. And then the P5P, there's also a problem where your body doesn't produce that. So it's really easy to get around all that horrible genetic issues. Take a fully methylated B vitamin complex. The Superior B is the one I use. It has P5P. It's got all the things that you have to make these processes actually work. And then the other thing is we make sure that we get lots of high quality amino acids in. Whey protein, pea protein, these will both work. We have some protein powders that we mix in that work great. I also like to throw some raw eggs into these smoothies so that we get great choline. When you heat a protein like an egg, you denature the protein. So like when you crack an egg into a skillet and it's clear, and then you heat it and it turns white, that's damage to the protein. So the best way that you can consume these things is raw. Now there's also things we do like adding hydrochloric acid and stuff like that to protect the stomach from any issues with the eggs. But man, raw eggs are not going to cause you a whole big issue. So getting the gut ready and then putting these nutrients back in is really, really important. Now, the other thing we have to look at is one of the key factors functions there is oxygen. So we're going to check sleep apnea issues. We're going to check oxygenation throughout the day. We're going to look at iron levels. Sometimes we have MCV or mean corpuscular issues where we need, again, methylated B12. Methylcobalamin is probably the best option for most people. If you have COMT issues, which again, we can pull from the genetics, we use hydroxycobalamin and adenosine cobalamin. So again, not stuff you need to remember. That's why I'm here. That's why I do this. But the other thing we have to have is movement. We have to have oxygen function. So exercise is going to be a big part of this. So whether you're walking, whether you're doing exercise of like 5-5 or you're lifting weights, we need to get the blood flowing. We need to get your breathing up. And one of these things where you don't have to like go out and do, horrible, terrible, crazy cardio. Just get out and start moving to the point where, it's a labored conversation, right? You can still talk to somebody, but it's kind of more like this type of thing. Like, it's harder to talk, but you can still talk. They get your heart rate up, oxygen's moving through, everything's great. So these are the things we kind of have to do. Now, the other great thing is that as you're doing these things, you're producing giant amounts of information from all your joint mechanoreceptors in the body, floating up to the brain, causing the brain to check on things, reset things, evaluate things again. And your brain will also help to kind of notice, hey, the dopamine levels are kind of low. This is where your body can start putting those back together. But remember, this is one of those things where you need both tyrosine and phenylalanine. Those are the 2 amino acids. You've got to have the P5P. You've got to have methylated folic acid. It's always a better idea to have, fully methylated, methylcobalamin, or like I said, adenosine and hydroxycobalamin. Those are all 100% required. And then the movement and the exercise is also extremely important for this. But like I said, sleep apnea is going to be a big problem with all of these people, because if you're not breathing properly at night, you're spending 6 to 8 hours at night in a hypoxic or low oxygen state, which is horrible for your brain. And we've known this for a long time. So if you have depression, if you have Parkinson's, if you have any of these, psychosis, if you've got any of these low dopamine issues, depression for sure, you need to get a sleep study. If your doctors haven't done a sleep study on you, I'm a little bit worried if they even know the first functional step of what they're trying to do to regenerate brain tissue. So the other thing I always like to make sure of, we get the testosterone levels up. So here's a cool thing. This is why we always tie to testosterone to depression. Low testosterone levels have a correlation with low dopamine levels, and vice versa. So we got to get those back up as well. So adding the testosterone in is super duper important to brain health all the way across. And so this is the way that we start repairing all of these things and getting things moving again. Depending on where you are in your progression of your disease state, we can either arrest it so it doesn't get any worse, or we can walk it back. And this is the thing, like, guys, there is no drug your body needs. None. There are a ton of nutrients your body desperately needs. So think of it this way. Your body was designed and created. It's an amazingly designed machine. It's a phenomenal, like, the more you look at it, the more obvious it is that God made it. It's super great. But here's the thing. It requires very specific chemistry to do the job we're asking it to do. And so if you don't give it that chemistry, it's not going to work. This isn't rocket science. So give it the required chemicals it requires to do the job you're asking it to do, and it will do the job the vast majority of the time. Now, there's obviously some stuff with genetics, like I mentioned, that you need to have your doctor check. If your doctor doesn't understand the genetic function, I would find somebody else to work with. Usually when I go through genetics with people, it takes me over an hour to go through just the report that we got and how it ties to them, because it's a big deal. Now, if you have genetic issues or epigenetic issues, lots of times you do have to take a supplement for the rest of your life because your body's not producing those things. However, again, swallowing a pill is not really that hard. So if you guys have issues with depression, if you guys have issues with Parkinson's, or you guys have issues with any of these low dopamine things, psychosis, any of this stuff, I would seriously get a hold of us or somebody else who understands the metabolic function of neurology and can help put those things back together for you. There is a lot of stress management that goes in here, and that's going to be your coaching, and that's going to be your, walking through people how to do the stress management, but exercise works great for that too. So at the end of the day, this pathway out isn't super difficult. It's just involved. And that's kind of the way that we get this thing back together. So if you read Dr. Amen's work and you're like, oh my gosh, you can't, cannabis is killing all of us, that's not actually what's going on. What his research proved was that depletion of dopamine is critical to the development of these disease states. And that's where he stopped, which is not, in my opinion, where someone should stop. They should be like, hey, we figured out that low dopamine causes all these problems, so let's increase the natural production of dopamine. I don't understand why this is such a hard thing for people to recognize, but it is. I think a lot of times the medical community, it's, if there's not a drug for it, they don't know what to do because they're only taught to prescribe drugs and they're not taught that the body actually functions, was designed and created to work on specific other chemicals, and so they don't factor those in. It's the body's this weird mystery box, and then I'm told to throw a drug at it, and if it doesn't work, throw a different drug at it. If it doesn't work, just tell you you're going to die. Not actually look at the chemistry and be like, oh, this is how your body makes the things we're trying to do. We'll fix all the issues along the path. So, but that's, I don't know. That's kind of the difference. So if you guys have any questions, if you guys are worried about Parkinson's, if you guys have not had your DNA checked for this type of stuff, I would definitely get a hold of us. If you have any of these issues and you haven't had somebody do a CT angiogram for plaquing, haven't looked at sleep apnea, haven't looked at your DNA, haven't looked at your testosterone levels, haven't looked at your insulin levels, I'd find another doc. But that's kind of where it is. So if you guys have any questions, hit us up, questions@chalmerswellness.com. Repulsify is the OCD thing. OCD has a couple different things that are tied into it. I would want to test. So this is a great thing to start with because cleaning up the diet is going to help kind of calm some of these things down as well. Impulse control and things like that are not necessarily the exact same, but there's differences in the brain that we can, this type of a protocol would be wildly beneficial for OCD as well. But it's one of those things where OCD has other parts that we have to kind of work on. So any other questions, you guys hit us up. We'll kind of go through them and we'll get that all squared away. You guys have a fabulous day. Thanks for your time.